Okay, let's look at some food scale basics. We start off with our basic food scale. We're gonna wanna turn it on and give it a minute. And then we can change on this side our units. So I want grams. So I'm gonna hit this button and now I can see that I have it on grams. The scale is zeroed out right now with nothing on it, but I'm gonna put a plate here. So now that I have my plate, I'm gonna go ahead and zero my scale out again. So now I am ready to start weighing out my potato chips. All right, so this is just a very basic first example. I'm gonna go through a few examples here. I'm gonna zero that out again because it's doing some weird stuff. All right, so now I can see I have my 7 grams of chips that I can now go in and track. I wanna make sure that when I am weighing this out, I weigh it in grams so that I can then go into my food tracker and I can change this to 1 gram and then I can put 28 as the serving size inside of my tracker. Or if I'm not using 28, I can change it to 1 gram and then I can put 8 as the serving size, 8 grams. All right, so that's a very basic example. I want to show you guys some other tricks. So one of the things is with something like peanut butter or Nutella or anything from a jar like this, you could do it with jelly. One method you can do obviously is having your plate and maybe you're gonna put this on bread. I can open up my jar of Nutella. I can zero this out. Oh, sorry, I'm changing units, I'm not zeroing. All right, so I can zero this out and I can have my piece of bread or whatever and I can pick up my bread and I can do this and then I can lay it down and say, okay, we're at 4 and now I can take more and maybe I'm trying to get a serving. So I'm picking up my bread each time and putting it on there. So that's a little bit harder, I think, in my opinion. One of the things that I like to do is just sit this on the scale and then we're going to zero out the jar and then I'm going to take it from 0. So now I can see as I get my peanut butter or whatever Nutella out, I am at -9. So now I know that I have 9 grams of the Nutella. So we're just going backwards with this. So that's a really simple trick if you're taking from a jar. All right, I'm gonna actually put this back in here. So next example, something like a banana. So we do want to make sure that we are tracking things like this accurately because bananas can vary very widely in their weight and size. You'll probably get better at eyeballing this eventually, but to start off with, you will want to track it. I'm using an old banana because I'm not going to eat this anyways. But one thing that you can do with this is if you want to eat it from the peel, you can zero your scale out. I'm going to go back to grams. And I can weigh this whole banana. So it is 241. I can go write that down. I can eat by banana and that's all I'm gonna eat. So now what we're left with is what's left of the peel. So I can take that first number and subtract it by 100. So I think it was 241 minus 100. So 141 is how much banana I ate. Or you can obviously just peel it, take it and weigh it out. So yeah. So 2 ways you can do the bananas. All right, so let's look at an example of a liquid. So with liquids, there are some scales that have just grams and some that are gonna have milliliters. You can do fluid ounces. So that's kind of your choice. I'm gonna do fluid ounces. I typically just leave fluid ounces in for my milk. So I would change it to fluid ounce and then I can pour in my milk. All right, so I have 3.7 ounces. You'll also see that the labels on these read in milliliters. So if you would rather go with milliliters, my scale does have a milliliter option. If your scale does not have milliliters, that's 114. The grams are going to be very similar to the milliliters. See, 114 grams too. So if your scale does not have milliliters, you can just use grams. They're going to be very, very similar. It might be like 1 off every now and then. That's all for that. Then the only other example that I want to show you is if you're using something like olive oil, there's also 2 ways you could do that. So one of the things that you could do is just lay your pot on there. I would do this before it gets hot. And then you can pour in your olive oil to measure it out, Or you can do it the same as I did the jar version, but this is gonna be a little bit more tricky because I'm gonna be taking this and I can zero out my olive oil container, and then I can just go and pour some in my pan, and we'll see how much. This is kind of tricky. So if I'm actually looking to do like a tablespoon of oil, I don't know. Let's see how much we have there. So 8. That is actually very close to a tablespoon of oil. So I'm at -8. So that's the other way you could do it. I prefer putting the pan on there so I can be exact, because with that method I'm just kind of guessing and hoping that I don't go way over what I had intended to weigh out. But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show you guys some quick little tips and tricks for using your food scale.